Hi, friends and family,
Welcome to Hope After Addiction
with your hosts, Katie Comer
and Chelsea McLeod.
Hi, welcome to Hope After Addiction. We are so happy that you have joined us today. How are you?
Hi, friend. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Nothing new to report, if you will. We actually record several of these back to back, and so it's still cold.
Yeah, it's still freezing.
I think it's actually warming up now if it's getting released at sometime in end of February, March, but
So ready.
It is cold here today.
I know. I've been rebooking all my clients, and it's in March. I'm like, okay, we're not that far. We're not that far.
Bring on spring, but also means that my babies are turning another year older, so it makes me sad. I got a March and April baby, so
Yeah, not ready.
I know they're doing 8 and 10 this year, and it just seems wild.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Funny story. Jasper and I had that conversation because he'll be 4 this year, and I started crying, and he said, "Mommy, are you just kidding with me?" And I was like, "No, buddy." He did. He thought I was just kidding because I was crying. I was like, "No, it's just bittersweet. You'll understand it one day."
It is wild. I can't believe I'm having
real.
double digits.
I know.
Weird.
Crazy.
So today we're going to be talking about when our version of good is different from God's.
Tough one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you hope that it's the same, but it might not always be the same.
And
It
most
might
of
be
the
very
time
different.
isn't. Yeah.
But there's hope in that, right? There's hope that God's version is even better than you could have imagined, even if you have to go through a hard to get there to his good. So,
Yeah, it's a good point. Because I know for my life, it has been sweeter than what I had envisioned.
yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yep.
You want to start?
Yeah, my grandfather would say this, there are good ideas and there are God ideas, and not all good ideas are God ideas. And so what we think is good from our human perspective, God may not. He may not see, because like Katie said, he sees the greater plan, the greater picture, and probably outdoes what we think is good. Because a lot of times what we think is good, I think about unanswered prayers from many, many years.
Oh, about saying.
Very, very grateful for that. So, right. Yes. Go.
I know. I about did it though. I was this close.
You still have not done a solo for us. I'm still waiting on this. But it truly is those good ideas that were once good. Even now is a whole different perspective for me. And I can see, God, thank you. Thank you for not giving me what I thought was good at the time, because you gave me better.
That's good.
And it's hard because we know that we deal with people that's not always the case. Like, we deal with overdoses and loss, and that's what's hard to see. And Mom reminded me, actually on a trip to Costa Rica a couple years ago, it was kind of in the story that the night before we left, there was something in my spirit that just wasn't settled. And I don't know what it was. I talked to multiple mentors. I cannot peg it. And I was like, God, just give me a sign. If I'm not supposed to go, tell me. And John called me, and Jasper had 103 fever. And I was like, okay. So we canceled the trip that night. And John said, we have to know if we wake up in the morning and he's okay, that we did the right thing. And won't you know, we woke up the morning. Jasper's our wild little toddler. But God told me that. And so Mom told me that next day, she said, because I was upset, and I know it's so trivial because it was a vacation, but for people in ministry, it's not just a vacation. And Katie understands that. She's about to leave. It's a time to reconnect. It's a time to refill our cups. And so for me, that's what it was. And Mom told me, she said, this side of heaven, you may never know what good God did. And so often in this life, when something doesn't happen that we think is good, we may never know this side of heaven, why it wasn't answered or why things didn't happen the way that we wanted them to. But God's version is good.
That's good.
Not easy, but good.
Yeah. So God's goodness is perfect, no matter what we think, right? So your canceled trip, whatever it is, that's just an example. Questioning it, this is my plan. This is what I have planned. But God's plan is always perfect.
Yeah.
All right. And so in James 1:17, my producer's telling me to move the mic. I don't do that often. So Let's see. James 1:17. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. Humans, us, we shift focus and all the things, and plans change and all this changes, but God's plan, every good thing from above is good. And resting in that, and also resting in that he doesn't have plan A, plan B, plan C,
That's good.
right? Resting in the fact that his plan A, only plan, is good. Your life, what you're walking through right now, is plan A, and it is good. And resting in the fact that he is whether or not you're seeing that it's good right now, he's not surprised by it. And we talk about that a lot, right? We talk about how God's not going, Adam was an addict.
Can't believe you took that pill.
What am I going to do now? I'm going to shift gears because I thought he was going to live in Knoxville.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to buy a house and us be around all our high school friends forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's what I mean. That's what I thought. I mean, I would have loved it. I love my high school friends, but that was my plan. But God's not surprised. He's like, plan is going according, and he's going to learn some stuff.
Yep.
She is going to learn some stuff, and it is going to be good. And it was, and it is. It was hard, but his plan A and his only plan is good.
Yep.
And resting in that when you're in the middle of you're in the middle of it, not understanding why he's putting you through this. This is his plan.
Yep.
And reaching out to the right people, praying to your Heavenly Father, help me understand this plan. I don't get it. I'm human. I don't understand why you're not just like doing something about this, but teach me. Go back a few episodes about that.
Yeah.
Teach me, God. Help me find rest in this hard season.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And God's plan goes beyond our immediate pleasure. And so often what we see is the here and now, and that's one thing. Isaiah 55:8-9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. Yeah. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." And so we see this immediate pleasure. We see this immediate answer right now. But God doesn't see that. He sees so much bigger. And I even go to this, I think about losing my best friend to cancer, and she fought a good, hard battle. She fought the fight and ultimately was healed in heaven at a very young age. And there's so much that I can't see. And so I even, in relation to death, there's so much that we still can't see. God healed Tara. What else would Tara have endured here? What else, your loved one that you lost, what else could they have endured that God's like, your time on earth is done. I'm taking you home with me. And so God sees that bigger realm. God sees outside the forest that we talk about. He sees his plans are so much greater than our plans. And sometimes we're so focused. And I always talk about the vertical and the horizontal. And in these times, in these seasons, like Katie said, that it does seem impossible. It doesn't make sense to keep our eyes focused vertically and to just ask him, walk me step by step, 10 minutes by 10 minutes to get me through this season. To just let me see the glimmers of what you're doing in my life, what you're doing in this bad, to let me see that it's good. Ask him, and he'll give you, I call it little nuggets to just keep you going, to carry you through this. Yeah.
I mean, it is such a good reminder that we only see a part of the picture. Like, just be reminded of that. It's almost like you have tunnel vision.
Yeah.
We're human. We only see what's right in front of us. We only see that part of the little picture.
Yeah.
But God sees the whole thing. He sees from beginning to end. He sees when you're born, and he sees when you're standing in front of him in heaven. He sees you, and he sees the whole thing, and he thinks it's beautiful because he's created it. So be encouraged. Yes, you only see that small little tunnel of what's going on. You see your son struggling. You see him not listening to you and your cries for pleading him to stop. He sees that, but he also sees the end. And resting in the fact that he's got it under control, he knows what's going to happen, and resting in that because he sees the whole picture. So don't let that just go by, and know that that is something real and encouraging for sure.
Yeah, I think parenting has been such a rich lesson in this because I think about how often I go against what Jasper wants that in his mind is good at the time, you know, or running in the parking lot. And what I can see is a car coming, but what his little eyes and little height can't see, I can. And so it's been such a lesson for me, a humbling lesson, when I get frustrated or things aren't going the way that I think that they should go, that God sees what I can't. And it's being a parent has just taught me so much about that Jasper gets mad at me or angry at me or pitches a fit. And I'm like, buddy, I know you don't understand right now, but trust that I'm making the right decision for you. And that's what God does with us because we're his children and he loves us. He loves you. And his plan is good.
That's good. I mean, there's also stories in the Bible that you can read where you think somebody's going one way and they go another, and God's plan's greater. Joseph's one, that popped up, where he thought, his brothers put him into slavery. He's like, what is actually going on? Like, I don't understand the reasoning. Like, what's the plan here, God? And I mean, it turns out then his life was richer than he could have ever imagined, right? After all that. So Joseph said, his life was super rich, right? And he said, you intended harm for me, right? But God intended this for good. He had a good plan, right?
So rich.
That was his plan A. This wasn't, again, a surprise to God that his brothers did this to him. He knew that this was going to happen, and he used it for good, and we're still talking about it so many thousands of years later. So
true. And talk about meekness. I mean, can you imagine, like, first your brothers are trying to kill you, and they're like, no, let's don't kill him. Let's just put him into slavery. Like, let's just do this.
I know.
And then they come back around, and he, like, welcomes them back in and knows that God's plan was so fruitful and beautiful.
And it's so good.
Yeah. But we can't see that when your brothers are trying to kill you.
Oh, yeah.
We can't see that, you know?
Yeah. So, what else do we have?
I was even thinking about just that and the good, like Jesus' crucifixion and like his mom, Mary, I mean, seeing all this and not know, I mean, it's just crazy because he would rise again from the dead. And there's so many examples in the Bible I think we could talk about that.
Their plans were not what they envisioned, I'm sure.
Yeah. No.
Their plan, a lot of people in the Bible, like, this is not what I thought, just the same as today.
Yeah.
This is not what you thought. This is not what you thought your plan was. But rest assured, this has been going on thousands of years.
Yeah.
And that God's plan is good. It can be hard. He doesn't call us to an easy life a lot of times, right?
No.
But we talked about that. We've talked about that even in our most recent episodes of those hard moments, those trials produce so much faith and richness. And so
that is part of
be
his
encouraged,
good. Yeah.
By that. That is part of his good. So.
Yeah.
It also creates a lot of trust when, especially when you can see the goodness of the Lord coming through the other end. It's created a lot of trust in me and the Lord.
Yeah, a lot.
No matter what I go through, you got my back. You know what you're doing. You've brought me through hell to the other side. I trust you, Lord. And so it does create his version of good, not my version of good, has created this trust in him that I don't know if I would have gotten otherwise.
Unlike any other.
Right.
I was seeing when you were just talking about this, like this Bible that we have sitting here, we see the stories.
Yeah.
We see the beginning, what happens with Joseph, and we see the end of what happens with Joseph. So we're seeing that, but when we're in our stories, we're not seeing that, and that's where that trust is built that Katie's talking about. So if you miss that middle where God is still being good, you miss that. You miss that trust. You miss the resiliency that comes out of that. And there's so much, and like we always encourage you, don't miss what he's doing in the middle that doesn't seem so good right now. Because on the other side of your story that's being written to your life, God has your story written. But what's being written to what you're slowly coming into, God is still good in it. And there's precious blessings that come with that. Trust being one of the best ones. Because Katie and I have talked about, we know that whatever happens coming up, we know and have a hope in it.
There's a hope.
Yeah. A strong faith in it. Trust that God's going to take care of us.
Yeah. Also, it creates, when you see God's goodness and his plan, and trusting in that, right? It creates a heart of gratitude. That's actually my word for the year.
Yeah.
So, but it does. It creates a heart of thankfulness and gratitude that we don't have to do anything, that he's got it under control, and that I'm grateful that I can rest in that, because I feel like there would be so much pressure if I knew that I had to do something to, I don't know.
Make it good.
Make it good. Yeah. I feel like it would create so much pressure. So I definitely have a heart of gratitude, knowing that his plan is better than my plan.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's, just trusting in the Lord, staying in the word. There's stuff that I need to do to kind of help my heart with it. But, I definitely a heart of gratitude.
Yeah.
In that as well.
Yeah. There's a precious sense of peace that comes with it. Precious sense of peace.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's all.
Okay. Well, we hope that you have felt encouraged, that your story, your good, may not look the same as God's good. But resting in the fact that his good is so much better than you could have imagined, and finding hope and finding comfort in that, his good is the best good. And so we hope that you felt encouraged in that today. If you find this on any of our socials, make sure you share it. That's how we get the word out, who we are, and you just never know who might need encouragement today. If you find this on our YouTube channel, sure you like and subscribe to it, or any of the podcast platforms. Make sure you subscribe to it. We thank you for joining us. We'll see you in a couple weeks, and I hope that you're blessed. Bye-bye.